Okay, so our first demo will be from most of your colleague, Erkin. And well, our research topic here is hospital readmission prediction and causes, and he will be using the de-identified RDW to do this. And throughout this process, he'll go through how to log in through how to find PhD De-Id RDW through Turbo, and then how to query the database and saving your query and then analyzing your query. So Erkin, I am going to stop sharing my screen and you can take over.
Hi everyone. Let's see if I can get my screen to share. So what I will do is I'll just share my desktop, and I'll actually probably just walk you through the first couple steps because you can sort of see the whole process from beginning to end. So the very first thing that I do usually is I connect to the VPN. That's just the Michigan VPN, and I'm connected right now. And then you connect to the server with remote desktop connection. And I have everything sort of set up, so I'll click on it and it'll just bring up my login, if it works for me. That's my level 1. And it will launch a virtual session to the machine, and then I will get a duo push. So the task that we're trying to do here is use the structured data to figure out which patient encounters in the hospital may be at risk of being readmitted. And so what we'd like to do is essentially figure out who has been admitted in the past, and then if they were readmitted within 30 days of their initial admission, and then use some of the information from that initial admission to predict their essentially risk of readmission. So we think about this type of sort of modeling or sort of research question in 3 parts. The first one is the cohort. So these are all patients that were admitted to the hospital, and we're going to do it over a specific year, and we're actually going to cull it down from the entire hospital population to a smaller subpopulation just to make the query run faster. Our outcome that we're interested in is if an encounter is tied to a readmission within 30 days. And then we also want to pull covariates. And in this case, we have, let me see, there's a chat. How do you connect to the database? Excellent question, Jenna. So you will open up Microsoft SQL Server, which I have here. And when you open it up for the first time, what you will probably see is you will not be connected. So this connection dialog will come up, and there will be a server name along with a port that is highlighted here, which I think we will probably share with everyone, right, Anissa?
Yes, we actually have a step-by-step user guide that I will share along with this presentation at the end.
Excellent. So that allows you to connect to the de-identified RDW database, and then you can start to query this database. And what I have here is essentially a fully completed query. But what you will probably want to do initially is do some exploration. And one of the things that you can do is you can look at the views that are available to you. And they're all under databases, PH views, and then views. And this will give you a list of all the views that are available to you. So you can see the names of all the views or tables. And then you can click on these. Let's say you're interested in encounters, you can see the columns. And so you can see, you know, there's a patient ID, the encounter ID. You can see they have insurance plan information, their age, some information about medications, and if it was an emergency visit. So there's a lot of different columns that you'll probably have to spend some time exploring. And you can explore either using sort of this navigator here on the left. You can also use the documentation that was created by Susan and the RDW team, or you can also run queries where essentially you are selecting from that table and seeing what that information looks like. And so you'll sort of iterate through all these sources and get a sense of what the data are, and then try to map them to your 3 big buckets of information that you need: the cohort, the covariates, and the outcome. And so I have this query here that's essentially has all these parts. I have the cohort defined where I'm pulling all hospitalized patients. I use the encounter all table. And then I do some amount of filtering where I'm only looking at people that are in a specific subpopulation called the MGI subpopulation, which we won't go into here, but this just makes it smaller for us. And then I pull outcomes, and some of this is quite complicated. So there's some amount of like SQL, just formatting that you'll have to do and iterate on. And I think we may be able to share this with everyone after the meeting, so you can go and sort of examine what I was doing. But you can see I had the cohort. I will pull outcomes for this cohort, and then I'll pull a bunch of covariates for the people in this cohort. So for example, I'm going to pull demographics, and I pull this from the demographic info table, making sure that I just only pull for the encounters that are in my study population. And I'll pull from this demographics view the gender, the marital status, race, name, religion code, and things that may be important to making these predictions. And then you can pull things like the diagnoses from that encounter. You can pull the labs from those encounters, the medications, the vitals. And that's just sort of a very limited initial quick query that you could do. And you can see there's a lot of tables, so you can really explore a lot and pull a lot of information. But so I have this query, and we'll go ahead and we could run it. It actually runs pretty quickly, but just to avoid the risks of a live demo, I have pre-ran it, and I have essentially all the tables that I was interested in, and I've pulled them all out. And then what you can do is you can save these. And what I've done is I've saved these results. I save them to the secure data direct drive, and I have a folder for myself, and I've called it PH demo. And what I do is I just saved all of these files as CSVs. And so you can see the data are here. And then what you may want to do is, these are just data tables and there's no analysis or machine learning here. But what you could do is you could use this environment, or you could use ARMIS and do it in a Linux environment. But I just did this for ease of use. I'm doing this entirely on this Windows machine. You can spin up a Jupyter notebook. And then this Jupyter notebook, just using pandas and sklearn, I pull the information that I had, all the tables, I read them, and then I just created a feature matrix using this information. And I can share this notebook as well, so people can get a sense of the whole thing, where I pull in the demographics and the readmissions. The demographics are used as sort of the features, the readmissions are used as the outcome, and I have sort of X and Y defined. I fit a model, and then I'm able to evaluate how well that model works. And this was put together relatively quickly, but it sort of shows you the beginning to end overview of this process and what you can do using a de-identified precision health RDW. And so that's like the demo at a very high level. We can go into details if people have questions later, and I will try to share my code with you guys too.
Thank you.
Anything else I should cover, Anissa?
No, I think that's great. Can you go to your folder where you saved your query?
Sure.
So where it says data direct, everyone gets a Hume folder rather than a unique name folder. We had just made that unique name for Erkin very quickly. But once you ask for access to the De-Id RDW, we will be making a Hume folder for you, and that's where you can you can save all of your data. And again, like Erkin mentioned, you can analyze it either through ARMIS or through Yottabyte, whichever environment you're most comfortable with. Right now, we don't have the ability to query the SQL server through ARMIS, but we are working on that as well. Thank you, Erkin.